You ever have that feeling like you're just running on a treadmill? You're working harder and harder, you're achieving more, but somehow you feel more stressed out and less happy than ever before. It is such a strange feeling, but it turns out you are definitely not alone. So yeah, let's get into this whole modern paradox. I mean, think about it. On paper, so many of us are living in the most prosperous time in all of human history. We've got technology, comforts, opportunities that our grandparents could only dream about. So, why is it that anxiety, depression, and just total burnout are skyrocketing? It's really the central puzzle of our time. How in the world can we be getting richer, but collectively feel so much worse? And this visualizes the problem perfectly. You can see this clear split, right? As all our material progress keeps climbing up and up, our collective mental well-being is trending dangerously down. It really feels like the more we get, the worse we feel. Now, to understand why this is happening, we've got to look for a clue. And it's not where you might think. What's so wild about all this is that the answer isn't buried in some new self-help book or the latest productivity hack. Nope. The key to understanding our modern misery was actually figured out a long, long time ago. That's right. The diagnosis for our 21st century anxiety was actually written way back in the 19th century. It was from a thinker who saw the seeds of our current problems being planted during another time of massive, massive economic change. And that thinker? It was the foundational sociologist, Emile Durkheim. You can basically think of him as a detective of societal patterns, and his work, well, it gives us a really powerful lens to understand our own lives today. Durkheim wasn't just some dusty academic. He was obsessed with one critical question: how do huge social changes affect us as individuals? He wasn't just looking at people in a vacuum. He was studying the invisible forces that shape our happiness and our despair. So here's the crucial point. Back in the late 1800s, Durkheim noticed something really alarming. As the Industrial Revolution was roaring ahead, bringing all this new wealth and productivity, suicide rates were also going up. He realized that when our traditional communities and support systems start to break down in favor of pure individualism, people are left dangerously alone. Does that sound familiar? It's a pattern that's only gotten faster and faster through the 20th century, and right into our hyper-connected, yet somehow deeply isolating, digital age. And this really gets to the heart of Durkheim's warning for us. In a world that tells us that anyone can succeed if they just try hard enough, a meritocracy, the flip side of that is just devastating. If you don't succeed, well, who's there to blame but yourself? This self-blame is the very foundation of what's become a modern psychological trap. Which brings us to the core idea of this whole explainer, what we're calling the meritocratic trap. It's this idea that our modern idea of success hasn't actually freed us. Instead, it's become this heavy psychological burden. So what is this trap exactly? Well, it's the widespread belief that your worth as a human being is directly tied to what you accomplish, your job title, your salary, that whole checklist of achievements. And in a system like that, failure isn't just a setback, it's a judgment on your character. It's a verdict that says you're just not good enough. And it kind of unfolds in 3 steps. First, you get the promise. Work hard and you can be anything. Then comes the mandate. Success isn't just an option, it's a moral duty. Your value is your resume. And finally, you get the brutal judgment. If you stumble, that failure is all on you. It becomes this source of deep, private shame. And this is really the final turn of the screw. A simple disappointment, not getting a promotion, a project not working out. It's no longer just a bad day at the office. In the meritocratic trap, it becomes this terrible internal voice telling you that you are the failure. And that is an unbelievably heavy weight to carry all by yourself. So, are we just doomed to live in this high-pressure trap forever? Well, not necessarily. The diagnosis might sound grim, but it also points us toward a path forward, one that takes us beyond this crushing burden of individualism. The solution isn't to get rid of freedom or ambition. Not at all. It's about rebalancing our values. For decades, we've treated individual freedom like the ultimate goal. But what if it needs to be balanced with a sense of community? We've often seen solidarity, relying on others, as a kind of weakness or a limit on our potential. But the new view sees it for what it truly is, an absolutely essential support system for a healthy life. So how do we actually do that, right? How do we rebalance freedom and solidarity in our own lives? Well, it's not some single magic bullet, but it really boils down to making two fundamental shifts, both in how we connect with other people and in how we think about ourselves. Okay, first, we have to actively create new ways of belonging. Whether that's in our neighborhoods, our hobbies, our friendships, we need to build communities where our value isn't tied to our productivity. And second, we have to generate new ways of thinking, new ideologies that allow us to be a lot kinder to ourselves. This really just means learning to accept that setbacks are an inevitable, normal part of life, not some personal failing we should be ashamed of. And that leaves us with one last thought to chew on. We spend so much of our lives trying to prove our individual worth, trying to build something all on our own. But what if we've been chasing the wrong thing this whole time? What if our greatest achievement isn't standing on top of some mountain all alone, but in learning how to support each other when we inevitably stumble along the way?